So my name is Erin Oshiro, and I handle immigration policy at Asian Americans Advancing Justice AAJC, which is a national civil and human rights organization in Washington, D.C. Today's call is co-hosted by Adhikaar, a New York-based organization working with Nepali communities to promote human rights and social justice for all, and the New York Immigration Coalition, which aims to achieve a fairer and more just society that values the contributions of immigrants and extends opportunity to all. The purpose of today's call is to learn more about TPS, including the benefits, who is eligible, and how to apply. Before we get started on the presentations, just two housekeeping notes. Right now, everyone on the call except for the speakers is muted to just keep out some of the background noise so we can hear better. When we get to the question and answer portion of the call today, people can unmute themselves so they can ask a question by pressing *6. And I'll repeat those instructions again when we get to the question and answer portion of the call. The second point to note is that we do have attorneys on the call today who can provide general information and answer general questions, but we're not able to provide anyone with individual legal advice on today's call. We can try to help people find attorneys or nonprofit organizations who can help you if you have specific individual questions that you need help with afterwards. So with that information there, why don't we go ahead and get started? First, we will hear from Luna Rajit, Adhikaar's Executive Director, about their work on TPS and what they are hearing and seeing from community members. And then after Luna, we will hear from Camille Mackler, who is the Director of Legal Initiatives at the New York Immigration Coalition, who will explain what TPS is, who is eligible, and how to apply. And then we'll follow up with questions. So Luna, can you go ahead and start, please?
Sure. Thank you, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luna Ranjit. I'm the Executive Director of Adhikaar. We are based here in Queens, New York, and I will be repeating this information in Nepali as well. And so Erin at AAJC and Camille at New York Immigration Coalition and both of their respective organizations played a very active role in getting us the TPS, and it was a very short campaign, and since the TPS designation became public, we have been organizing support for our community here in New York as well as around the country. In New York, we are organizing regular free legal clinics, and we've organized one in Washington, D.C. as well. And we also have volunteer lawyers who have been offering advice through Skype and phone consultations as well. And in addition to that, we have compiled frequently asked questions, as well as the list of legal service provider referral list for around the country that we've developed with help from the New York Immigration Coalition, and both of that information is up on our website. So the website is www.adhikaar, adhikaar.org. So if any of the information is not, as you're looking, is not there, please let us know. So नमस्ते सबैजनालाई, मेरो नाम लुना रञ्जित हो, म अधिकारको कार्यकारी निर्देशक हो। अहिले हामीले यो टीपीएस को लागि क्याम्पेन गर्यौं हैन। यसमा चाहिँ एजेसी र न्यू योर्क इमिग्रेसन कोलिसन र विशेष गरी एरिन र कमिलले हामीलाई यसमा धेरै नै सहयोग गर्नु भएको थियो। र अनि अब यो टीपीएस पाइसकेपछि हामीले यो त्यसपछि हामीले यहाँ फ्रीमा क्लिनिकहरू चलाइरहेछौँ, जसले चाहिँ लयरहरू आएर चाहिँ यहाँ फ्रीमा टीपीएस भर्न सहयोग गरिराख्नु भएको छ। न्युयोर्कमा चाहिँ हामीले हप्ता पछि गरिरहेछौँ र वाशिङटन डीसीमा पनि एकचोटि गर्यौँ। र अनि त्यस हामीले स्काइप र फोनबाट पनि न्युयोर्क डीसी बाहिरको व्यक्तिहरूलाई मद्दत गरिरहेका छौँ। र अनि धेरै जसो प्रश्नहरू उठेको प्रश्नहरूको विषयमा चाहिँ हामीले त्यो त्यसलाई एफएक्यू बनाएर र अनि अरू चाहिँ न्युयोर्क डीसी सहित अरू बाहिरको स्टेटहरूको पनि त्यहाँ फ्रीमा अथवा कम पैसामा लयरहरूको लिस्ट र संस्थाहरू विभिन्न संस्थाहरूको लिस्ट तयार पारेर चाहिँ त्यो हाम्रो वेबसाइटमा राखेका छौँ। And I wanted to do a quick check-in to see if people actually need interpretation before I spend time like in 2 languages?
Sure, that's fine. Let me unmute folks for a second, and then people can let us know if they'll need interpretation.
Okay. तपाईहरु मध्येमा कसैलाई चाहिँ अंग्रेजीमा अप्ठ्यारो हुन्छ र नेपाली चाहिन्छ भने चाहिँ भन्नुस्, म दुवै भाषामा कि म नेपालीमा उल्टा गर्दिन्छु हैन भने चाहिँ सजिलोको लागि चाहिँ अंग्रेजीमै गर्दा चाहिँ चाँडो हुन्छ।
उनका कसरी फोनमा भयो? हजुर
यदि एकजनालाई मात्रै पनि अंग्रेजीबाट गाह्रो हुन्छ, नेपाली चाहिन्छ भने भन्नुस्, म नेपालीमा बोल्न रेडी छु। चाहिँदैन? Okay, it doesn't look like anyone needs a Nepali interpretation, so we can just do it in English.
Okay, thanks for checking,
okay.
Luna.
Yeah. So, and the question that we've been hearing a lot in terms of issues is around a lot of people have applied for asylum and have either have the cases pending or have gone to court and have withholding of removal, and many more are in like student visas, and a question about what would happen to like, are they allowed to accept employment outside in terms of maintaining their F1 status. So those have been like the primary concerns, and we've been hearing multiple different versions of the answers from different lawyers, and so that's one of the main issues. I just wanted to lay that out before we go into details. And that's it from my side.
Okay, thank you so much, Luna, for starting us off and for all of Adhikaar's great work. And I think the question you have flagged is something that maybe Camille might be speaking to in her presentation. Camille, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you. So, yeah, Luna, I can definitely address that as I'm speaking. I just wanted to give everyone an overview of what TPS is and what the requirements are to qualify for TPS, and then how you can go about applying. So temporary protected status, which we call TPS for short, is something that can be granted to nationals of an entire country when the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has determined that nationals of that country cannot return safely, either because of an armed conflict or, as in the case of Nepal, because of a natural disaster. So on June 24th this year, the Department of Homeland Security designated Nepal for TPS. And that designation is going to be good until December 24th, 2016. So it's good for 18 months. So whoever receives TPS will have TPS until December 24th, 2016. At that time, the Department of Homeland Security will make a determination as to whether or not they will renew TPS for another 18 months, or if they think it's now safe for people to return, they will not renew it. But in the past, when there have been natural disasters, we have seen TPS be renewed a few times. Although the designation is good until December 24th, 2016, individuals who want to apply only have 6 months to apply, 180 days, which means that anyone who wants to apply and get temporary protected status must apply by December 21st, 2015, so December 21st of this year. If they don't apply by then, they will not be able to apply later on, and if Nepal does get redesignated in 18 months for TPS, they will not be able to apply then as well. And temporary protected status is essentially a status that protects you from deportation, allows you to work, and allows you to apply for permission to leave and return to the United States. It does not guarantee travel. It only gives you the right to ask for permission to leave and return, and then each case is decided based on the facts of the case. It also, like I said, allows you to work. I know, as Luna mentioned, that there have been a lot of questions as to individuals who have student visas. Should they be able to work even if their underlying visa does not allow them to? My answer is yes, I believe that they can, but there has been a lot of confusion around that, and so we are checking with USCIS to issue confirmation of that. And also, you should also speak to a lawyer to find out in the specific situation in your case if there will be a problem. But generally speaking, you can get regardless of your status in the United States, and also something you should get regardless of your status in the United States. So TPS does not replace if you have currently, if you are in a valid student visa, an H-1B visa, any kind of status, it won't replace that status. It will just basically give you an added layer of protection. So if for whatever reason you lost the status that you are in now because of TPS, you would still be able to remain in the United States. For example, if you could no longer afford to go to school and you're here on a student visa, on an F visa, then if you stopped going to school, you wouldn't have to leave the United States because you would have TPS. By that same token, if you do not have status, if you're currently in the United States and you are undocumented, or you are in immigration court and you're facing deportation proceedings, or even if you already have a deportation order, you still can get TPS. You may not be able to travel as easily, but you can still get TPS, and you should apply because you can still get that work authorization as well. To qualify for TPS, you must be either from Nepal, or if you're stateless, you must have last lived in Nepal before you came to the United States. You must have been in the United States since June 24th, 2015, and not have left the United States since then. You cannot have committed certain crimes, and as I mentioned before, you must submit the application by December 21st of this year, December 21, 2015. If you've committed one felony or two or more misdemeanors, then you will not be eligible for TPS. If you were not in the United States on June 24th, 2015, you may not be eligible for TPS. If you were here before and left for a very short period of time, you should talk to a lawyer to see if you might be eligible or not. But if you did not come to the United States until after June 24th, 2015, you will not be eligible. And if you have any sort of issues with terrorism charges or spying charges or anything that poses a threat to national security, you will also not be eligible for TPS. In certain cases, for example, if you came in using a fraudulent visa or other instances, you may need to hire a lawyer to help you apply for a waiver in addition to the TPS application, but you will still be eligible. It will just take a little bit more paperwork for you to get TPS. If you have any questions, as Luna mentioned, we are in New York organizing lawyers to meet with people who want to apply every week. There's a big event happening next Saturday, August 1st, and we'll give some more information about that at the end of this call. And there are also some events happening around the country, and we'll give more information. As Luna mentioned, you can go on the Adhikaar website and find a lawyer in your area. We've been collecting information for legal service providers all around the country who can help with TPS. But I do want to address the question of asylum that Luna raised, which is that TPS does not have any effect on an asylum application. So you can still apply for TPS even if you were granted asylum, or if you have an application right now that is pending, or if you had applied in the past and it was either denied or you were only granted withholding of removal, you can still apply for TPS. What you cannot do is use the fact that your country was designated for TPS to then prove your asylum application. So the fact that Nepal was designated for TPS does not help your asylum case. It does not help you prove that you meet the requirements for asylum. But the TPS application in and of itself will not impact your asylum application. If you currently have a pending application, you can still continue with it. And that's true for any status. Any status that you have, you can continue with it even when you have TPS. But if you lose it, then instead of having to leave, if you lose that status, instead of having to leave the United States, TPS will allow you to remain in the country. If you have a status that allows you to get work authorization, for example, you have an asylum application and you're getting a work permit through that, or you have an H-1B visa and you're working through that, you don't need to pay for the work permit. You can just apply for TPS. With every TPS application, you must submit the form, the application for the work permit. But if you don't actually need the card or want the card, you can just pay for the TPS application itself. And to that point, you apply for TPS by using Form I-821, and you also have to file Form I-765. If you are applying for TPS and a work permit, then the first-time application fee is $515 unless you are under 14 years old or over 65 years old. For everybody else, it is $515. If you do not want to apply for the work permit, you still need to fill Form I-821 and Form I-765, but then you only pay $135. If you cannot afford the fee, if you cannot afford even $135, there are fee waivers. To show that you, to ask for a fee waiver, there's an additional form that you can fill, and you will need to show that you do not make a lot of money, either because you're receiving a benefit such as food stamps or Medicaid or something else where some government agency has already looked at how much money you make and they've determined that you don't make enough to survive, and so they're helping you with some type of benefits, in which case you can just include a letter proving that, establishing that, to get a fee waiver. Or if you make less than the poverty limit, you can also just show your proof of income, so show your pay stubs or a letter from your employer saying how much you make or your tax returns, and then you'll be able to get a fee waiver and you won't have to pay for the fee. And finally, if you have an extraordinary expense such as a medical bill that is extremely large and that is so large that you cannot afford to pay for both that bill plus the TPS application on your current salary, then you can get a fee waiver. For everybody else, the fee is $515 if you want the work permit and $135 if you do not. To apply for TPS, like I said, you're going to have to use those forms, and you're also going to have to show your identity. So you're going to have to show a passport or a national identity card, or in some instances, if you're stateless particularly, you may have a birth certificate. If you are stateless, so if you're not Nepali, then you will have to show that you were last living in Nepal before you came to the United States. You're going to have to show that you were living in the United States on June 24th, 2015, so you can show pay stubs, tax forms, letters from employers, anything that shows that you went to school, paid rent, paid for utilities, anything like that. And if you really need help, if you really don't have any of that, you can get an affidavit from friends, from a roommate. And you will have to also show when you entered the United States. So the entry stamp on your passport, the I-94, a visa, or any proof that you may have. With that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to maybe see if we have any questions that we can answer.
Thank you, Camille. This is Erin. So before we take questions, just want a reminder that people right now are on mute. So if you would like to ask a question, you have to press *6. We're trying to do it this way so we can just keep things manageable, but if that seems hard, then we'll unmute folks. But right now, to ask a question, you press *6 to take yourself off mute, and you can ask a question.
So I have a question in terms of just the timeline for TPS. So, for example, if my current work permit expires soon, so in the next couple of weeks, but I've already applied for TPS, can I continue working, or do I need to wait for the new EAD to come? And usually, how long does a TPS application take?
So I think, as Erin had mentioned, we cannot give specific legal advice. And if you have questions like that, you should go speak to a lawyer and show them all of your documentation, and they can, based on the facts of your case, give you specific answers. Generally, in order to be authorized to work in the United States, you need to have a valid work permit. So if there's a period of time where your work permit expires and before you get a new one, generally you cannot work. But there are exceptions, and you should speak to a lawyer to see if you meet one of those exceptions. As to the second part of your question, TPS applications, we've been told by USCIS that they expect that right now it will take about 3 to 4 months to adjudicate them.
Okay. And could you briefly also just talk about traveling outside and how the logistics around that, how you could do that?
Yes, if you want to leave the United States first of all, if you are applying for TPS, you probably should not travel until you have a decision on your TPS application, and then you must also apply for what's called advanced parole, which is permission to leave the United States and return. You apply for that by using Form I-131, but there's no guarantee that it will be approved. You're going to have to show the purpose of your travel, so you have to show why you intend to leave. There has to be a good reason. They won't let you just leave and come back for a vacation. And you also have to wait for it to be granted before you can leave the United States. And that's on Form I-131. And we recommend waiting until a decision on your TPS application before applying for the work permit, because you don't want to risk a situation where you've left the United States before a decision is made on your TPS application, and then that application gets denied, or immigration needs something from you and you're not in the country to handle it. And in that case, they'll determine that your application was abandoned.
All right, got it. And is there a way to put your application on so you said it's usually 3 to 4 months. Is there a way to get in touch with USCIS and ask them if they could fast track the application?
To expedite applications, you have to show that there's a humanitarian reason why, and you're going to have to show that your situation is different from everybody else who is currently waiting for TPS for their applications to be adjudicated, which, as you can imagine, can be very difficult with TPS, especially in the case of of an application from a country like Nepal, where everybody has an urgent need to travel, or most people have an urgent need to travel. But you can call and you can ask, but in TPS applications, it's unlikely to get expedited. You might be able to get an advanced parole application expedited once you're granted TPS, but you'll have to wait for the TPS application to be decided.
Camille, can you also mention how long people can travel outside, and there's any restrictions, or how many times can people travel on advanced parole?
Generally they'll give you, I think, in the past, what we've seen with TPS, it always depends, but in the past it's been they give you an advanced parole document that that will be valid until the end of the TPS expiration date, so until December 24th, 2016, and you'll be able to travel on it twice for usually about 30 days.
Camille, this is Erin. Is that 30 days total or like two 30-day trips?
Two 30-day trips.
Thank you. Okay, do other people have questions? To ask a question.
Hi. To follow up on the expedited categories, it seems like USCIS allows expedited service for any sort of applications that are put in, and other than humanitarian needs, there are also categories like personal need and a few other categories through which you could expedite. So does this also work for TPS? And if you think expedition is like pretty difficult for TPS, would you recommend that after you have the TPS, you could expedite the EAD if you're applying also for the TPS EAD?
Generally, yes. You can always ask for an expedited consideration of your application on any of the grounds, which generally are humanitarian reasons or personal reasons, but also sort of in the humanitarian category because it's a personal reason that warrants special treatment. But generally, and like I said, it's going to be pretty hard to get that with TPS because the premise behind TPS is that everybody from a certain country is in the same situation. But usually they adjudicate the TPS application and the work permit application at the same time. What they don't do, what we don't recommend doing at the same time is the travel document. And in terms of expediting a travel document, I should have said that earlier. Like I said, if you apply for it, you can go to your local office and show that there's an emergency. For example, somebody is very sick or somebody is dying and you cannot wait for the application to be decided. You must travel immediately, in which case they can issue you on the same day a travel document. However, those travel documents are only good for one trip for 30 days, and the 30 days start running on the day that you were granted, on the day that they approved it. So you have to be ready to leave that same day or the next day if you want to take full advantage. And when I say 30 days, remember that you have to be back in the United States on that last day that the trip is good for. So it's not good enough that your plane took off from wherever you went, let's say Nepal, but if it lands in the United States on the next day, you won't be able to re-enter the United States. And that can be very tricky because sometimes people wait till the very last minute to travel back. And then if there's a flight delay, if the flight has to get diverted because of weather, if there's any issue whatsoever and they land at 12:01, we've seen this happen. If it's a minute past midnight of the next day, they will not allow you to return to they will not allow you to re-enter the United States.
Some serious consequences for that one.
Yeah.
Other questions? *6 to ask a question.
As I can ask another question. So if in terms of is there a way to sort of like end TPS, so in the sense that if you're currently on a certain status and then you need to switch back to say like a student visa or something, can you go back to your home country and apply for a new visa? Or do you continue to be under TPS until it expires?
You can do both. You just have to be, in that situation, I would talk to a lawyer because you have to be certain that you'll be able to get another visa in your home country.
Could you elaborate? What do you mean?
Certain visas have certain requirements that you may not be able to get one if you also got TPS. For example, a student visa, it might be more difficult because there's certain requirements that you have to have a home abroad for a student visa. So if you wanted to, if you lose your student status and within the period of TPS wanted to come back and get your student status again, or wanted to get another student visa when you were back in Nepal, or if you came here on a tourist visa and switched to the student status while you were in the United States, so you never got that student visa, and you wanted to travel back on the student visa, it would be you would really have some decisions to make. But again, that's very, very, very fact-specific and personal to every different individual. So if that was your situation, I would urge you to speak to a lawyer.
Okay.
Camille, this is Erin. Did you discuss how people can lose their TPS status? Are there things that people have to do to maintain their TPS status?
Yeah, if you commit a felony or if you end up with 2 or more misdemeanors, then you could lose your TPS status, and then they would also immigration would probably place you in removal proceedings. And then you can lose TPS status if you get it originally and it's redesignated, but you don't reapply for the redesignation, then you will lose TPS status. You have to re-register for every TPS period. So this period is valid until December 24, 2016. If it is redesignated at that time, then everyone who gets TPS this first time around will have to re-register for TPS, will have to reapply.
Thank you. Are there more questions from community members?
Yes, I have one more. So anybody in TPS who gets the TPS approved can still apply for the H-1B lottery coming April?
Yes. Having TPS doesn't preclude you from applying for any other status that you may qualify for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, just I guess a couple reminders. So on Adhikaar's website, there is more information and frequently asked questions that Luna mentioned before, and the website is www.adhikaar.org, and that's ADHIKAR.org. And for people who RSVP'd for this call, we can send out their website. And Camille, do you want to provide your website information? And you mentioned an upcoming event.
Sure. So our website is www.NYIC, New York Immigration Coalition, NYIC.org/Nepal TPS, and you'll find basically the same information as there is on Adhikaar's website, and you'll also find a calendar of events in New York, because we are a New York-based organization, including legal assistance clinics every Thursdays at the Adhikaar offices, and a mass assistance event next Saturday, August 1st, at Newtown High School, which is in Elmhurst, Queens, where three lawyers are going to be meeting with about 200 Nepalis who want to meet with a lawyer and help them apply for TPS if they qualify. And for all of that, you need to make an appointment with Adhikaar. So, Luna, I'll let you give the phone number.
Okay. Sure. Adhikaar's phone number is 718-937-1117. 718-937-1117. We have also been fielding questions on our Facebook page, both on Adhikaar's Facebook page, but also the Facebook page we set up for TPS specifically, TPS for Nepalis. We have a Nepali lawyer who's curating questions and answers there as well. So if you have other remaining questions, feel free to reach out to us through that as well. And also just that I want to, just once again repeat we have put in a lot of effort to put together the list of legal service providers. Actually, New York Immigration Coalition has that from around the country. So, and many of them are either free or charge very little. So I would recommend reaching out to them for specific questions.
Yeah, I would also say to that point, Luna, that we also have unfortunately heard of a lot of fraud around this issue. So if you have any questions, you should consult that list, because we know that those are lawyers that you can trust, and try to get at least a free consultation to confirm information that you've received if you're not certain that it's accurate.
And on the note of frauds, I would also request people on the phone, if you hear of any frauds, immigration fraud, like around TPS or otherwise, please let us know about those as well, so we can educate the community and also try and prevent that. And if fraud has happened, try and seek redress as well.
Thank you so much. Luna or Camille, any other parting words or final thoughts?
Well, thank you, Erin, for coordinating this, and thank you, everyone, for joining this call on a Sunday. Really appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
I would say the same, and I would also encourage everyone who qualifies to apply, just in case, even if you just pay $135 and not get the work permit, because you don't know what will happen in the future, and you don't want to lose your chance to apply, which will end on December 21st of this year.
Thank you, Camille, for that really good reminder. So thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope the information was helpful. For people who RSVP'd, and I have your contact information, we'll send out the links to the websites and the different resources that were mentioned on the call today, and just want to share all the good information that Luna and Camille had, and we'll also be posting the recording so we can help spread the word and get more information out to the community so they could take advantage of TPS. And with that, I think our call is ended. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.